Hi, David Gerard here. Last time we were together we made pierogies. This time we're going to make kolaches. Kolaches, a fruit-filled pastry, usually associated with Czech food, but you'll find variations of it from Central to Eastern Europe. Some say, though, the best kolaches today are found in Texas. It was probably a Texan who said that. They're always bragging they have the best this and the best that. But it's the bragging that they're the best at, and complaining. Their governor at one time talked about seceding from the Union, and recently 125,000 Texans petitioned the White House to secede. You know, when George Bush, W. Bush, was president and people didn't like his policies complain, the secessionist Texans said, "If you don't like America, just leave it." Now they don't like the current president, so they want to leave, but they think they have the right to force the 25 million people in their state to leave with them. It's impossible to reason with narrow-minded, unreasonable people who think everyone should live according to their standards. So we'll just leave it there. We're not here to make trouble, but to make kolaches. But so you know, a few Texas cities host kolache festivals every year, and there are several other festivals held annually around the country. Well, let's get started. Kolaches are made with the yeast bread, and I have my bread started here. I mixed a cup of warm milk with a tablespoonful of sugar and a tablespoon of yeast. You can see the mixture is bubbling here, so we're ready to mix up the dough. I have one of these kitchen contraptions here that make the mixing a lot easier. If you don't have one of these, why, you might as well be living like a cave person. But you don't want a bread maker, and I'll tell you why. That takes all the fun out of making bread. But this KitchenAid, it helps with the initial mixing and kneading, and it leaves you with control over what shape your bread takes and what you want to do with it. So we're going to get this mixer started, and we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. We've got some melted butter here, 1 egg. It's a large egg. You usually put 2 eggs in it, but I'm putting 1 because it's such a large egg. And you want to have a half a cup of sugar. I put a little bit in to start the yeast. I'm putting the rest in there. And we want about a teaspoonful of salt. And then 3 cups of flour. I'm going to start adding that a little bit at a time here. While this is mixing, I want to talk to you a little bit about the filling. As I said, kolaches normally have a fruit filling. And this is going to be a quick type of kolache. And I'm going to use some strawberry preserves in some of it. Then I have some peach pie filling. And I also mixed up a little bit of ham and cheese. I'll show you a little bit later that we're going to be adding to it. Alright, we're going to take a little break while this is mixing up, and then we'll come back. Alright, our dough's all mixed up. And so I'm going to cover this. Here it is right here. I'm going to cover it up with a little vegetable oil and a towel and let it sit in a warm place until it doubles in size. And then we'll be ready to put those kolaches together. Here's our bread dough, and you can see that it's raised. We're going to punch it down. And the first thing I'm going to do is divide it into 2 equal halves after it's punched down. And then with 1/2, I'm going to divide it into 8 equal parts. And the other I'm going to divide into 16 because I want some big kolaches and little kolaches. And then on a cookie sheet, we're going to create these depressions, have about a 1/2 inch of dough around the edge, and then this depression in the middle that we're going to put the filling in. Alright, we're going to do that and then we're going to come back. I saved a couple kolaches here. We have the small one and the large one. When you go to fill it, it makes sense that the small kolache isn't going to hold as much as the large kolache. You're going to put quite a bit more in that one than you are the small one. You know, we have some people today that say the filling from big kolaches is just going to trickle down to the small kolaches. And you don't want to interfere with the accumulation of wealth by the big kolaches, because the more they make, the more the big kolaches have to trickle down to the smaller ones. And the more jobs they create. It's called the trickle down theory. And you're not supposed to mess with it, interfere with it, like try to redistribute the wealth from the big kolaches down to the little ones, because that's just going to mess up the whole system. You won't have any big kolaches left to do all the trickling down and create the jobs. Or you want to know something? The trickle down people are full of crap. During the George W. Bush years and through today, the big kolaches have gotten wealthier by sending jobs overseas. They're not creating jobs here at home. They've benefited from the economic policies of the Bush years. And the middle and lower class incomes have eroded while losing jobs and retirement benefits. I just want to read something to you from Carl Gibson with U.S. Uncut. He recently explored big and little kolaches. He says, in Congress' latest fiscal cliff deal that supposedly had to be passed in order to avoid economic calamity, we spent $30 billion on extending unemployment benefits for a year. We also spent $205 billion in corporate tax breaks, subsidies, and excessive tax loopholes. Most of these Christmas gifts for corporate America are benefiting major multi-billion-dollar corporations that haven't paid a dime of U.S. income taxes in years, like General Electric, GE, and Boeing. They get a lot of government contracts too. In other words, taxpayers spent 6 times more on giving free money to companies making record profits than we did to making sure that the people who were laid off by these corporations can still feed these families. I'm not trying to demonize rich people or corporations. Some wealthy people and corporations do wonderful things with their money. But the system has some inherent flaws and concepts which have ended with the big kolaches sending those jobs overseas and burying their money in overseas accounts where they don't have to pay taxes. When the big kolaches made bad investments like they did in the housing market, the little kolaches paid to bail them out, and while now the little kolaches receive foreclosure letters. Remember the parable of the big and little kolache next time you hear someone promoting the trickle-down theory. Okay, I'm sorry, I said we weren't going to make trouble, we were going to make kolaches, and sorry, but here we go. We're going to let these raise for about another 15-20 minutes. That last time the dough raised for a half an hour, and we'll probably leave these about 15 minutes, and then we're going to stick them in the oven. Okay, we've got our kolaches ready to go here. We're going to stick them in the oven, and they should bake about 15 minutes. And you want to watch them real close so you don't burn. Almost heaven, my kolaches, I'll remember. All my life I've loved them all. You don't bring me flowers, you don't bring me kolaches anymore. me kolaches, love and kiss 'em, waiting at the end of my ride. Hey, hit 'em now, move 'em now. Whoa, they're ready. Here's my kolache. You can eat it just like this. This is one with the peach, or you can get these little frosting packages and drizzle a little icing over it. That's what we're about here in America, having a little excess. You put sugar inside and put sugar on top. And so if you can't live like or you can't be a big kolache, at least you can drizzle some icing on it and be like a big kolache. Enjoy it.